want to focus a little bit more on the upcoming state elections. All eyes are on this particular event. Amongst the folks that I interview, either investors or industry leaders and the likes, they're all waiting for one more political hump, so to speak. This 6 simultaneous state elections that is upon us, bearing down on us, and well, everybody's joyous and celebrating Shawwal and all this. Everybody keeps on talking about it in at the various homes and relative places that I visit. This is testing that strange bedfellow situation. Your colleagues in Negeri Sembilan and Selangor have made postulations that those who have won those seats, the incumbent party will continue to contest in it. Also, some overlapping seats are going to be avoided. Do you feel that these kind of arrangements is, in a way, a betrayal of sorts to the people that do not want the other party? Say the UMNO folks, they didn't want PKR or Pakatan Harapan, and vice versa on the other side. Do you feel that it has taken some time for the electorate to understand the kind of relationship that you guys have? It's been 5 months after all. Where do you see the situation is on the ground?
Well, I mean, we all know that sometimes arranged marriages do work, right? Or rather forced marriages. I don't know how to. So
necessity marriages, more like it. Yeah.
So, but I think most importantly, I think the way we look at it is quite pragmatic, where we saw that when Barisan Nasional and Perikatan Nasional, they had this coalition at the federal level, but they were contesting against each other at the state level. On one hand, I think it's interesting. I mean, and it happens in other countries. It's quite normal. But on the other hand, it does make it complicated at the federal level, and you know that festering problem then ensured that there was no future for BN and PN to stay on together. So for us, we just came into this coalition. Obviously, no one thought about it. I mean, but the fact that we had to, because no party or no coalition had the magic number to form the government, means that now we have to make it work. I mean, I don't think anyone would want any disruption to this government the way we saw the past 4 or 5 years gone by. So, in order for that to work, we also believe that there has to be some understanding at the state elections where we can't go against each other. Anyway, I mean, if you talk about Kelantan and Terengganu, I mean, where I'm in charge of, we are all very happy to work together because we know how we operate. We are at a disadvantage anyway. We are the underdog. I mean, BN plus PH.
Yeah.
Right. So
you're the outsider lah.
You're the outsider. So might as well we combine what we have and try to get some beach hits for. I mean, if that's how I look at it. I mean, even in Kelantan, I've gone out publicly saying that we are not there to change the state government, but to emerge as a strong opposition for check and balance in the Dewan Negeri. Because I think that's realistic. People will believe you when you say that, and seeing at how strong Perikatan, especially PAS, is, then we take that approach. So, to me, it's fine, But I understand that maybe in certain places where PH, and I know, I mean, both there are PH core supporters and BN core supporters that are still uncomfortable with this idea. But I think, if we frame it as a way to make this unity government at the federal level to continue in order to introduce reforms, to provide the stability for investments and economy to grow, then I think people will be more willing to accept it.
You are one of the youngest cabinet ministers at, I don't want to out your age, but you are a minister, 41 years old, and we're looking at you being one of the first millennials to be in the 40s, honestly. There's Generation Z, Generation Alpha that are both interested, or might not be interested in politics, and also very much in tune to climate change. Do you feel that is another one of those unnecessary burdens that you think about at night, that you have to reach out to this cohort and try to impress upon them that the government is doing a lot when it comes to climate change, that they are needed and crucial in policy development and the likes? What's the kind of outreach that you have in store to reach out to the younger audience and younger voters right now?
Yeah, I mean...
And TikTok doesn't cut it. I mean, that's one of the platforms. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it is you know, the young generation now is so dynamic. You know, the way things change and all that. So I mean, my difference and them, you know, if you look at the youngest voter is about 20 over years, right? 23 years, but that it feels that it's much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you know, one of the most important things, because I know that they are this is actually very high up in their concerns when you talk about environment, about climate change, as opposed to perhaps people of my generation. Okay.
And politics, based on the recent study that I've
politics,
seen.
yeah.
Strangely enough, yeah.
So I think that's why I think it's important to show them that whatever they do when they vote, when they turn out, it can make a difference, because that's crucial. I mean, there's no issue that they're concerned about climate change, but I think to convince them that getting out to vote matters, I think that is something that we need to work on. And we just, I mean, it's our task as policymakers to be creative, to reach out. I mean, there was a time when I didn't want to be on TikTok, or, you know, and do all those.
But
memes.
you're forced, honestly.
I'm forced to, right? Because they are
They're
important. They're there, yeah. And so so I think that's where and they are not just passionate. You know, when I see them, I meet them, I talk to them. They're not just passionate, but they are very well informed. You know, so someone like my generation or older, we can't take a condescending approach to this generation.
They're very opinionated.
They're very opinionated.
We raised them as such.
Yeah.
And when we get talked back, we kind of be perplexed. Why are you talking back? But
yeah. I mean, we
brought them
slapped,
up.
If we did that to
no,
our
that
parents.
game over. Yeah. Now
so
you get.
No, they feel that that's part and parcel of what they do. So I think we need to understand that. And for obvious reasons, that for them, you know, if we say we don't achieve our targets, which is within this next decade or less, then, you know, by 2050, when they have their families and whatnot, then, you know, this planet will be in the midst of a terrible you know, climate change circumstance. We are already heading there, right? So I think for them, you know, and there's that sense of it's our generation that's not doing enough. Or because of, you know, the sins of their father. Right? Yeah. So I think that is something that we need to address, and I mean, I try my best to engage with them, because, like I said, there's a lot of passion, interest, knowledge there, energy there, and I think it's also for me then to convey it to people of my generation or older that we just have to do it faster. It's, you know, lip service is not enough.
Two more areas before we conclude this conversation. Second last area is Sabah and Sarawak. I feel that your ministry is actually quite crucial in terms of trying to get the job done there. But of course, it's also important for you to continue to espouse the Prime Minister's vision on bringing them closer to the fold. We've seen a lot of moves to give them the concessions that is needed, overdue, I suppose. And I see that our Borneo government counterparts are seeing a lot of goodwill coming in from the federal government, from Putrajaya. Do you feel that your ministry is one of those that are, in your own words, a beachhead ministry to enter that whole environment of bringing Sabah and Sarawak closer to the fold of federal government?
Definitely. I mean, you know, one of the first things we did after the formation of the government, now we are going to what do you call that? The regulation of energy will be handed to Sabah. Sarawak is already there. I think it's never been federalized, but it was taken away from Sabah. Both energy operations as well as regulation. So now we are going to give by 1st January 2024, regulation will be with Sabah. And there will be, we are working out on the operation side on SESB to supply electricity, and how Sabah will be taking over that. So that's that. Then you know, some land policy issues and whatnot. We are also working with comfortably, I think, with the two state governments of Sabah and Sarawak. But most importantly is for us is, you know, we look at, one is that we see like Sarawak, for example, they have done very well in showcasing themselves as where there is sustainable green energy. They're talking about even green hydrogen. and they're attracting
I've had a guess on that.
And they're attracting interest from across the world, including how they manage their forests and whatnot, which I think has a lot of good lessons to offer to the federal government for how we do things at peninsular level. Even Sabah, I think, because how they've been able to showcase what they're doing at the state, and because I think the natural heritage is so crucial to their tourism industry. So I think again, these are things that we can learn from. So at the same time, when I meet them and whatnot, and we've had positive meetings, is that we say that at the end of the day, when we go to the international level, we need to work together, because at the federal level, we represent Malaysia as a whole, right? But obviously, they have much more powers than, say, the states in the peninsula in these matters, and we try to see where we can learn from one another and build on that strength. So rather than see as a problem, I see that bigger autonomy that they have is actually a source of strength that we can draw lessons from.
The final area of exploration with you today is on the idea of financing for climate change. Recently, I spoke with one of the luminaries of corporate Malaysia, Tan Sri Andrew Shang. He is a proponent of trying to bring about greater ability for us to finance for climate change and ecology survivability. He's mooting various ideas, including a carbon exchange, stock exchange, green peer-to-peer financing, basically anything under the sun to get the job done. He likened it to Islamic financing, on how, because of us having the Islamic Finance Act back in 1980-something, 84, or 83 if I'm not mistaken. Then a decade later we saw a boom in Islamic financing. It still carries on until today. Where do you feel the financing aspect of things are when it comes to climate change and carbon exchange? Do you feel that these kind of ideas are critical for us to explore right now? And what are the things that you've done at the ministerial level to ensure that financing is being facilitated better?
It is crucial, because I think like a lot of things, it all boils down to money. Obviously, political will and all that, but the finance aspect is very crucial. So, for example, Bursa Malaysia, they started a voluntary carbon exchange, and they had their first auction this year. So that's a step in the right direction, but we haven't. Both projects that were auctioned were unfortunately not Malaysian projects. So I think we are looking at how we can put Malaysian projects on the exchange, because then we have a lot of our GLCs, our corporates who are interested to fund it because of their SDG objectives, so they were looking for Malaysian projects. So that's what they were asking me. So I think that's something we're working on. But in terms of carbon trading and all that, one aspect of it is that because we're trying to find how to make it work within the Paris Agreement. It definitely allows for it, but we want to protect our nationally determined contributions, NDCs, under the Paris Agreement. So those are the things that is still being worked out. And secondly, the Ministry of Finance is also looking at how to have or the viability of a carbon tax. Singapore has a carbon tax, because only if you price carbon in, then just like
then
our energy, then people will start to respond accordingly.
Treat carbon as a resource and a cost.
Yes, so those things are being explored, and even the issue of carbon credits and whatnot. We are still looking at how best to manage it. Definitely, we have huge carbon sink in Malaysia, the forests. We saw, several state governments have been in touch with various agencies to do this carbon trading thing. But at the and we do accept that carbon is a state matter because it's related to land and forests and whatnot. But for us, again, when we talk at the federal government, we have to regulate at if there's trading abroad and or getting carbon in and all that. At the international level, the federal government has to play a role. So that's the framework that we are working on, and hopefully we can get that sorted soon, because that market is a big one to capitalize on.
Many of our colleagues and friends who have started off in politics, they had to, accommodate themselves and change to the environment that they're in. Over the past close to 2 decades of me knowing you, you haven't faltered that much, I suppose, in terms of being who you were to what you are now, and that's extremely commendable and impressive. This book is, of course, a testament in terms of the kind of work that you're doing. It's not easy being, I guess, a minority in terms of being a progressive in this very conservative country. Do you feel that there's a lot that needs to be done when it comes to your own personal mission? You've settled in, I assume that you're settled down in your role right now, about 5 months into the job now. But are you comfortable in your own skin, being a minister, being one of the minority progressive voices, being an urbanite, and now you have to work hand in hand with the various colleagues that you have in your unity government and the myriad of people here? Is it all there is to this story, or is there more to it?
Well, when I had to choose 2 offices because it's a merger of 2 ministries. When I was appointed as minister, it's this the former CASA office or the former KETSA office, which is next to the Palace of Justice. One of the things that really compelled me to take the KETSA office was the fact that it was next to Palace of Justice, where I was, I would be detained, where I was hounded up and down by the government, Because for me, at the end of the day, and it's a self-reminder. I've seen it happen to other people as well. It's easy for us to forget it's easy to be an activist.
But it's easy.
Yeah.
People think it's hard. It's actually easy.
It's easy.
It's easier to be where you are now, policymaker. That's
correct.
The harder
part. And it's easy to, in a way, it's easy to be in a lockup. Granted, I was there for 3 days and 2 nights, not like our Prime Minister, right? But having said that, when you're in a position of power, you tend to forget all those things. You tend to forget your mission, your whatever brought you into politics. Like everyone has an origin story. So you tend to forget that when you're in a lush environment with the bodyguards and the drivers and all those things, right? When people stand up when you enter the room. So I think I mentioned that in the book as well.
Yeah.
But obviously that written before I became a minister.
Yeah.
Is I have to remind myself to never lose that. And I think I can't say that I've achieved anything by being here, because but Nik Nazmi being minister, okay, you tick a box for your personal CV.
Yeah, but
that's that, right? There'll be tons of ministers before and after me.
Yeah, correct.
But it's about when I retire, I want to look back at what I have actually achieved. And I think I haven't done enough of that, definitely. And by putting the hat of an activist, of what change I can do and what not, but having the power of someone in government. Obviously, navigating the realities of power and politics, which is another thing. But that, I think, is important. Having that desire to change, to reform. Then you meet certain barriers, and navigating that. But keeping that spirit alive is crucial to be able for me to be able to be true to myself.
So sometimes, when you were an activist for the longest of time, you wanted to be in power. You and your compatriots wanted to be in power so that you can affect change. Do you have to pinch yourself every now and then and see, okay, now all this time I've been fighting on the sidelines. Okay, I got the thing that I was fighting for. Now what?
Yeah.
Is that reality sinking in, or has sunk in, or you're like, okay, I've done that bit, now I need to work forward?
It has sunk in. In the sense that now there was always an excuse. Like you said, I was pretty much always in government since I got elected 2008. I was in state government, then 2018 I was at federal government.
Essentially, you were only opposition for about 30 months. That's about
yes,
it.
Correct. Yeah, But we always had an excuse. When I was in state government, the federal government was a different party.
Yeah.
When we won in 2018,
It's a convenient.
it was convenient. In 2018, the prime minister was not our party leader, right? And he thinks differently. So now, you have the prime minister. I'm in office and all that. So I think that for now, I know that I'm being given all this huge responsibility. And I can't have an excuse not to deliver.
Okay. So you worried right now for your own,
Well,
I'm not talking about political survival. No, that's not it. I'm talking about the legacy that you want to leave behind. Are you now worried for that?
In a sense, not so much that thinking every day, what sort of legacy, but sort of, whether, when I have a 12-year-old son. Whenever he sees, land being cleared, trees being felled, he'll send a photo to me. And so, Abba, what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is
it sounds like an angry, what do you call that, a constituent.
Yes. So what I want to do is to be able to, go back and tell my son, that I've done certain things that I can leave behind for him. Yeah, legacy in a way, but something not so much personal, but the change that I can effect. Whether people care who does it or recognize who does it, that's secondary to me. But as far as I know that within my power, within my influence, I was able to do certain things and make that change happen. I think that's something that I want to achieve.
Final question. You are afflicted with the chronic disease of being a Liverpool supporter. I am really sorry for that. Where are you thinking the season's going to end, and what is the aspirations that you have for next season?
Well, being a Liverpool supporter helps you to when you are in opposition. It prepares you for the disappointments and defeats, and it makes every success that you have all the sweeter. Because you have a lot of defeats and disappointments. But anyway, this is to be fair.
2 big wins, 3 big wins, and then like.
Like
Pakatan Harapan lah.
For the club era, this has been one of the most disappointing seasons, I think, because he has built such a formidable team. But hopefully we can still get into Europe and have a good base to build on to go challenging for the Premier League, or at least the Champions League next year.
Fantastic. So once more, check out the Malaysian Son. It's on the big bookstores. It's currently shortlisted as the Popular Book Fest Critic Award. I'm definitely butchering that, but do check it out. It's a great book. I've read it just before. The funny part, and this is for our viewers, was that I was already scheduled to interview you the day before you were appointed as minister. So, the day that you were appointed as minister, I texted you and I said, I don't think you're coming for the studio interview today. That was the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. And of course, if you want to learn more, head off to their website as well. Of course, you can find other resources at astro.com. My name is Ibrahim. Sani. Catch you in the next one.